Peace fans, this is Chris Bolts and I'm coming in with the episode recap and review of this week's episode 1149, The Void Century, a revelation about the sinking world. Now this entire episode is pretty much Dr. Vegapunk finally giving us all the information we have been wanting to hear about the Void Century, and man, there is a lot that has been divulged here. We start this episode off with Stussy talking with the damaged Edison. Edison is wanting Stussy to get off the island because there's nothing else left that they can go ahead and do for the Straw Hats. The Straw Hats have to get off that island any way they can, and both Edison and Stussy have done as much as they possibly could to help that situation out. Stussy is wistful about what has happened to Edison, but frankly, there's nothing that they can really do. We see that the two elders is walking around just killing everything in his wake, all the transponder snails. This right here is Saint Marcus Mars. The other one that's walking about is going to be Saint Saturn, but they're not going to be successful in stopping that broadcast. That broadcast is still going out. We have Zoro and Jinbei running right here. This is a pretty funny scene right here. We have Zoro opening his mouth and Nami saying that she's gonna kick his ass later because she knows that he was the one that was holding them up from being able to escape from the island. We have a nice battle that's going on right here between Bonnie, the two giants, Sanji and Frankie, going up against Saint Judo in his Bakotsu form. Once again, our boy Sanji, he gets shortchanged again. He just gets shown up by Saint Judo in his Bakotsu form. I tell you, we need to start a petition for Toei and Asia Oda to give Sanji some love. Sanji can fight. Sanji can fight. He can fight and everything, but you guys won't let him fight or anything. He keeps on, you guys keep on shortchanging him. But eventually, Bakotsu gets bored with that fight and he runs off towards the Labo phase, the Punk Records, and he's going to do something that reminds me of when Trafalgar D. Law had used a similar type of technique on the island of Punk Hazard. You see this right here? It's just one big giant slash and it completely cuts the entire floating island in half. The bottom portion is getting ready to fall down. You see all the Seraphim and those captured Cypher Pole agents getting ready to fall down with it. That ends that right there. Now we get into what is pretty much the meat and potatoes of this episode here, being that Stella Vegapunk is just divulging all of the world's secrets to everyone around the world. He basically says the conventional wisdom of the day doesn't apply to the world of 1,000 years ago. And that world, in prior episodes, I was always speculating as to why we never really had seen any major continents, despite this world being full of water, being full of life, and having all these islands all over the place. Well, come to find out that the reason why that is because all the continents had been sank underwater 800 years ago, and Joy Boy, during the great war that he had against the world governments at the time, caused the world to sink underwater. And so now all these continents are underwater, and a lot of the current existing islands are portions of those continents. All the advanced technology that existed at the time those continents were still supreme are now underwater, and there's only been remnants. But the real big secret of all of this is that the Void Century, the war never ended. It is still going on at this time. The reason why Dr. Vegapunk was able to deduce all of this is because he had generated a power source called the Mother Flame. The Mother Flame being an all-powerful source of energy that he wanted to use around the world for everyone to benefit from. And there was one big incident that, if you guys had seen, if you remember, from several episodes ago, when the island of Lelucia was destroyed, and this is where he reveals that secret, that the ancient weapons that sank the world 800 years ago still exist and are waiting to be activated again. He realized that the Mother Flame that he created as a positive source of energy for everyone around the world was actually used by this fellow, this mysterious fellow whose name is only known as Emu, had used it to destroy the island of Lelucia. And he's apologizing for what happened, and because this source of energy that he used, let me go ahead and back up just a little bit here. This energy source, a fragment of it was stolen. Hey, this is Chris Bolton. I'm coming in after the post edit, and I just wanted to go ahead and talk a little bit about the ancient weapons for a moment here. Now, there are 3 ancient weapons within One Piece. Their names are Pluton, Poseidon, and Uranus. Now, Pluton has been revealed to be underneath the island of Wano. It's been sitting there for quite some time and hasn't been activated. And just looking at this One Piece wiki fandom here, it says right here that while Pluton has yet to appear in the story, it has been confirmed to be an ancient battleship capable of massive damage and destruction. So that's currently sitting underneath the Wano country under Mount Fuji. The second weapon is Poseidon, and Poseidon is actually Princess Shirahoshi. Princess Shirahoshi having the power to communicate with the Sea Kings, and we've seen those Sea Kings before. Those Sea Kings are absolutely massive, and they are capable of doing massive destruction and damage themselves. So Shirahoshi herself is the mermaid that has the ability to talk to the Sea Kings. And the last one is known as Uranus. Now, there isn't anything known about Uranus at this point in time, other than the fact that we know that it's probably in the possession of the world government, because when Lelucia was destroyed, it was a massive blast. It hit in exactly one fell swoop, and it was gone. So, in the whole entire key to all of this is that Vegapunk had created a energy source called the Mother Flame, which I talked about earlier and everything like that. And that Mother Flame, a portion of it was stolen. It was given to the world government, and they used the weapon on Lelucia. So that, I just wanted to go ahead and put that off in there in our discussion about this episode of One Piece. So I'll return you right back to the original video. And when that happened, the entire sea had risen an additional 1 meter. So just think about that for a moment, because it was already revealed in this episode that the entire sea level had risen by 200 meters and then just stopped. And Vegapunk theorized the rise in sea level was not due to any type of environmental factors, was not due to any type of climatological factors. And if that's the case, then it had to be something else. It had to be man-made. And so he had deduced that upon the destruction of Lelucia, the ancient weapons that were used then are still in use now, and that was the cause of the rising sea levels. Because you notice that when Lelucia was destroyed, there was a big giant hole right in the spot where Lelucia was once. And that hole had to be filled with something, and it obviously it filled with water. All that water, once it crested and filled that entire hole, it rose an additional 1 meter. And you see right here, he's apologizing for what happened, that he was complicit. Here we go. This is where we can go ahead and see this example right here. Let's see right here. So he says the world of Lelucia disappeared after a flash followed by a complete obliteration. So look at that big giant hole that was there. But all the world's water will have to come in there and fill that hole back up, and then it rose an additional meter. That's pretty much what happened during the Void Century. So we had so much that was being divulged. And you notice that the next few scenes here, we see that a whole bunch of old people are now starting to just shake their heads that Vegapunk is just spilling everything out there, putting all these worries on the shoulders of these generations of people who were, for the most part, fully ignorant of what happened during the Void Century. And he reveals right here that there are people who have learned all the truth. That happens to be the Goldie Roger pirates. So right here we see Laboon and one of the Goldie Roger pirates right here. And then at the end of the episode, we're gonna see that Rayleigh is also sitting there and lamenting the fact that Dr. Vegapunk is going out there telling all these secrets. He's like, man, I wish you really didn't do that. I wish you would have just left the current generation alone and not put this on their shoulders or anything like that, and just left the world as it was and let them go about their own way. So that would be the end of the episode. But before we go to the end of the episode, we noticed that the betrayer Vegapunk, York, has finally discovered where the transponder snail is located. And I happen to be wrong, because I thought the transponder snail was not even on the island. But instead, no, the transponder snail happens to be inside this big giant robot that's currently walking about the island. That's where the transponder snail is, and that's where the Gorosei are finally going to turn all of their attention and their efforts onto trying to stop this Iron Giant, to stop that transponder snail from going out. And that's pretty much where the episode ends. And so we're going to go ahead and go to the preview for next week's episode. We see that everybody's still a lot of activity going on Head Island, rather. Everything's being divulged, but the entire goal now is to get at that Iron Giant to stop the broadcast there. Get the ship moving, the Iron Giant activates. So this episode was pretty much all about world building once again, and fleshing out the lore of One Piece. The Void Century being discussed in full detail by Dr. Vegapunk, letting the current world know, hey, we're still in the midst of a war. A war by whom? We don't know. But the evidence I have right here is Lelouch being destroyed entirely, and then the world rising, the sea levels rising by 1 meter. So we're still in the midst of it. We still have a common enemy that is actually trying to destroy the world. Don't know if it's for good or if it's for evil. All we know is that it's being done, and you need to take preparations to fight against it. So overall, I really like this episode. I really like it when there's a lot of lore being explored, and that's exactly what this episode did here. 8 out of 10. Do these episodes really need a lot of action to go with them? Yes and no, because for the most part, we all really do watch One Piece for the action. But when it tells a really good story, it tells a really good story, and that's what this episode did here. Those are my thoughts on the episode. What did you guys think about this episode? Did it live up to your expectations, or were you expecting a little more? Whatever your thoughts, jump down in the comments, let me know what you think, and make sure you do like, share, subscribe, turn on the post notifications. All that stuff really does help me out. And remember, this is Chris Bolt signing off, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Take it easy.